The whole place
Rolling?
is wonderful. Just wonderful.
It's 9 o'clock on Wednesday, November 15th, and we'll call to order the meeting of the Anchorage Advisory Committee and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got the.
And we'll start off with the roll call. We have Chris,
Yes.
and we have John, and we have Sam, we have Ted, we have a new member Ed, and Jim. And staff, we have Austin Gilchrist and Jim Adderholtz. And last week, all the new members gave a introductory. Ed, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Well, not really, because I feel the vice mayor did such a good job that if I add anything to that, it might shine me in a bad light. So I think I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. And we're going to approve today's agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the agenda? Is there a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay. Motion by Jim, seconded by Ted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All against? Passes unanimously. We got a chance to get the previous meeting's minutes through the email. Hopefully everybody got them. Are there any
I didn't get the
questions
questions.
about? Oh, you didn't? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I have one small change.
Do you want to make a motion, then we'll do discussion?
Sure.
Okay.
I move for slight discussion.
Chris moves to discuss the motions, or second, or just approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Ted seconds. And discussion.
Yeah, it's such a tiny thing. My name is R-I-E-D-E-L, not R-I-D-E-L. So that's tiny.
I before, okay. Is it I before E?
Well, it's German, so the second vowel takes the pronunciation. So
Is
that's
it
why
E before I?
No, it's R-I-E.
Yeah,
Yeah.
R-I-E-D-E-L.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll correct that in the future.
Yeah.
Probably don't need to do that for this minutes. Any other discussion on the minutes? All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Is there any public comment? I don't see any public here today. We'll move on to the next item. Current items. Anchored vessels and strategic plan. I think maybe we'll do the staff report before we do, then we'll go back to those items. And Austin, you ready for your report? Also, we have in attendance Chad Chutz, our project manager.
Shoots like shoots and ladders.
Shoot, you know what? I didn't know what to pronounce and what to leave silent.
No worries.
Chad Shoots.
Let me see, did I get you guys the anchor vessel here? I'll go ahead and run through the anchor vessels reports here, what we got. Staff has went out and compiled information based on the anchor vessels in the jurisdiction in the back bay. I don't believe I printed a map. We do have a map that I believe I'll email out, or you guys got an email?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, you guys seen the map of where all those vessels are located at?
So just to be clear, so an anchored vessel means a vessel that is outside of our mooring field that, within or nearby our jurisdiction.
Yeah, those of you who don't know Chad Schutz, this is Chad Schutz. He's been overseeing the Marine Operations Division, so we've been working closely together. If you kind of just want to give a small introduction of what you do and who you are to the new members, that way they have a background of who we have here.
Sure, so by education, I am a biologist and tropical marine ecologist. Went to school over in Australia at James Cook University. Studied reef fish was my focus. Moved back here in 2010, and I was explaining to Mrs. King that I was doing a lot of marketing for my dad's store. Kind of just fell into that and about internet marketing, retail marketing, and did a lot of database work for his store, and then decided I wanted to get back into using my education, and was staff for the city of Marco Island, and then worked for FDEP, and then opened up my own consulting, and most recently became a full-time staff member for the town of Fort Myers Beach. I work with wildlife, have enough knowledge about GIS to be dangerous, and that's kind of what we did here is went out and did basically a survey, GIS survey of the vessels that are in and around our mooring field, and then collected some data. What do they look like? Austin can speak towards the data collected.
Yeah, so basically it's the characteristics put forth by the state statutes of what designates as an at-risk vessel, derelict vessel, or anything of that nature. We went through and categorized each vessel based upon the 4 characteristics: propulsion, what else was it? Hatches secured, any listing, and then anchored off and things like that. It slips my mind, the 4 characteristics.
Whether or not they're pumping out.
Oh, and the marine, the pump outs as well. Oh, and if they're occupied or not. That's what it was, I can remember. But yeah, if they're occupied or not, we compiled a report, and pretty much we had 25 of them in the area that are anchored. And with that, we wrote down the characteristics with the location and everything like that. So if you look at the report, it goes over the comments and stuff like that. Anything abstract, then we made comment of it on the report.
So we did communicate this to LCSO, and they've been very responsive. One of our largest concerns is just the environmental impacts. If we have anchored vessels, we know we're one of the only pump outs in the area that's functioning, and if they're not getting pump outs from us, it's a flag. So we're communicating that to LCSO. We're also communicating that to the public at large, because this affects everybody's quality of life. Water quality is very important, and whenever we're experiencing those impacts, as we have in the past, which was one of the big impetuses for creating the mooring field, and this is basically undermining our efforts to improve our water quality, improve our quality of life, and it's also an economical impact for our beaches and surrounding waters, fisheries, etc. We can keep on going on. So this is just to communicate this information to y'all, let you know what staff, an initiative that staff has taken to start documenting this, to collaborate with LCSO and hopefully FWC in the near future, and to get some feedback for y'all to communicate to town council on anything you see as applicable to it.
This is the first time that we've done this, that we've taken that and done that analysis?
No, in the past, prior to the storm, we started this initiative as well, and we just kept a track of who was doing what in the jurisdictional area, and then anything like that, we would keep that file and share it with the sheriff's department, so they would have access to it to enforce anything that they would like to enforce, and then move forward from there. So we've had on record, but we're starting the program up again to start documenting, to keep ahead of the program, or to keep ahead of the issue.
And
I'm
you'll
a
do it
data guy.
monthly, or how frequently will you do this?
We try to get out there bi-monthly, every 2 months to see.
Every 2 weeks?
Yeah, so basically every 60 days.
Okay.
We're trying to fall under the 45-day anchoring thing to kind of get the characteristics of who's doing what in our area. So that's where we're trying to do it every 2 months.
I think this is great. I assume that we don't have authority, to do anything with those anchored vessels, and understand what you're saying with LCSO. I wonder if that's something that the committee should discuss in terms of going to the council and asking for an official response from LCSO. What could they do? Could they go in and write those vessels up and put a notice on there that they have to show documentation of pump out, that they have authority to do that? Or
We can bring, is it Lieutenant Nice?
Yeah.
Lieutenant Nice has offered, I think, to maybe come and speak to the committee, so if it pleases the committee, we can ask them when they might have time and discuss what our options are as a community to address these concerns.
Austin, this is as of,
October.
That's October 19th. You know, it's a single time, and what we'll do is continue to build upon this data and keep track of it in this format. If there's any other variables that y'all think would be pertinent to be collected, we're open to listening to that. But it seemed, you know, as Austin said, we're concerned about at-risk vessels, especially in proximity to the mooring field, as well as vessels that are anchored that are not pumping out, and keeping track of that. And I think the, you know, again, I'm a data guy. I like to have the data, have it organized so that it can be analyzed, even statistically. So if we keep on collecting it in this format, it's something that we can build a, you know, even an annual report off of. And once you have that data, it's something that's actionable, and you know, numbers don't lie.
And our jurisdiction is 1,000 feet around the mooring field? Is
It's
that?
going to be 1,000 feet out from any landmass of Estero, Fort Myers
Okay.
Beach.
I don't think, maybe it's not completely related, but some of these don't have license numbers on them, and some of them are potentially abandoned vessels out there. Is there anything that, and maybe that's an LCSO question as well, but is there anything that anyone can do about those vessels?
Not anyone, but law enforcement can conduct investigations, and if they meet the criteria of derelict or at risk, they will be ticketed and investigated. Usually the process is they go after the last known registered owner, and then after that it goes into the state's hands, and then the courts get involved.
You know, even just a week or so ago, we had one of these anchored vessels, you know, grounded his boat into Bowditch, cleaned off his, you know, bottom paint and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's a pristine area. In my opinion, just, you know, if I'm being from the environmental mind, that's not the proper area to go and, you know, scrape your boat. And he was ticketed for at risk and was able to get it out when the high tide, I think it was a few days later, that he was actually able to get it off there. But it's just something we have to be conscious of and keep working with LCSO.
Austin, isn't it true that there's a well-established or a regulation associated with handling abandoned vessels?
Yeah, yes, and there is an officer with LCSO who's just a derelict vessel officer, comes out and conducts all the investigations. So if anything, he'll probably be the one to come in and speak.
Are you identifying the ones that appear to be abandoned in this report as well?
Yeah, the occupancy, we marked on it as well, and that's in the occupied yes, no category there.
Yeah, not being secured would probably be an indicator. Maybe.
Yeah, if there's any open hatches to where water can get in, that's an at-risk vessel because of rain and things can flood the vessel and sink it.
It'd be a big advantage if we could help get those out of there. Those are bad.
Yeah, it's just a process.
Mm-hmm.
In respect to the pump out scenario, certainly tracking pump outs is not a 100% accurate way of determining if there's overboard pump out or not, because it's all depending about the size of the holding tank. But I've boated in jurisdictions where there has to be proof provided that your overboard through haul associated with pump out is closed. And it certainly could be reasonable that you ask for documentation that their through haul has been closed and secured.
I believe it's a state statute, 3 miles within any port, that your seacot needs to not only be closed, but there needs to be a locking mechanism
Secured,
on them,
yeah.
whether it be a physical lock, nothing that can be quickly removed and then put back on. So it's already in the state statutes.
So could you have the authority to inspect that if there is suspicion of overboard discharge?
Only within the mooring field, we have jurisdictions to board vessels. Everything outside the mooring field is going to fall under jurisdiction of U.S. Coast Guard, FWC, or Lee County Sheriff's Department, who all work together. And it's my understanding that all law enforcement is handled by Lee County Sheriff's Department in our jurisdiction. So that's why we work the closest with Lee County Sheriff.
So if there's any concern or suspicion that that there is pumping occurring overboard, you can report to one of these agencies and they will take the
That's exactly
proper
what this
initiation.
report is here. This is overlaps of all of the vessels, and our reporting goes into this report here of who has been and who hasn't been. So it's up on the sheriff's department to do that at will.
Excellent.
Did you guys want to go with the report, or did you just want to go down and follow with the strategic plan, and then I'll just go with the report later? Since we're just discussing anchor vessels.
Do you want, yeah, do you want to do yours, or should I? Or should
Yeah,
I
I'll
keep
just
going?
go down, and then I'll do mine at the end, and then we'll just, if you want.
Okay, and then we'll come back to you on
Okay,
that.
very good, thank you.
On the strategic action plan. Okay. And everybody's got the handout for strategic objectives. And this was started quite a while ago. We outlined our short-term goals, long-term goals, and we probably need to start getting back on track now that we're beginning to operate with our strategic plan, including getting up and running again, and improved marketing, and, well, let's just go through it from the beginning here. Short-term goals, customer experience.
Do you, hang on real quick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut in. Do you want me to give you a quick background of what this is?
Yeah, why don't you get us started on it? 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm just
the new members and stuff, it's probably pretty foreign, but what this is strategic action plan. We had a company come in, I think 2 years ago.
Yep, we had a
And
workshop.
Yeah, we sat with the committee members and then some members of the mooring field and then some recreational boaters as well to come up with where exactly we wanted to go with the mooring field, and this was kind of the roadmap how to get there. You'll see names in there like Randy and things like that, the staff members who are no longer with us. This is just the raw draft that we had on file that we want to bring life back into because it is a living document, and we would like to get this more of our roadmap of the direction where we need to go. So basically that's it. If you see a name that you don't know, it's probably because that staff member is no longer with us. Okay?
Good. So now that we have a copy of this, probably what we want to
Sam?
do. Yes.
Would you like comments as we go through this, or hold them to the end?
I think I'll just do a brief intro, and then we can just comment on
Discuss
them. We can go around the room, and probably, I haven't looked at it in a while, I don't know if everybody else has had a chance to, but probably at our next meeting, if everybody gets a chance to kind of go down these, maybe we'll do a revision and update the dates, and maybe just all the items also. But no, you can start now, John, if you want. Do you have anything to?
Well, the one thing that I don't see, and possibly it isn't here, and I think would be extremely useful, is to consider a water taxi operation. I would highly encourage a private proprietor, maybe licensed by a town, needs to be licensed by a town, probably also needs to be licensed by the state. I've seen this extremely successful in other jurisdictions. So you have an independent taxi service, water taxi service. It becomes a tremendous advantage to the boat owners, operators. Any responsible boat operator would not go ashore and enjoy themselves as much as they may, because they don't want to be on the boat or on a dinghy going back to the boat after dark. Several will not want to be out there on a dinghy after dark.
John, if I
do that,
could,
sure.
yeah, just a question for you, because there's a lot of confusion out there. Right now, there's a water ferry service
Right.
being developed. Why don't you just, for those who might be watching,
Right.
explain the difference of what you're talking about?
Excellent. A water ferry service is a scheduled vessel that is significantly larger, that goes on a set schedule from point to point. It is not meant to be called to go to a Pacific vessel to either go to land or possibly go to another vessel. So it is a taxi service of a small vessel, usually the capability of 8 to 10 passengers, and it is contacted most of the time through UHF communications, or in this day and age, cell phone. You say at 6 p.m. I'd like to have the water taxi. appear at my vessel and to take me to X. And that process has occurred. The cost for that is paid on board. Usually it's paid by, there's fixed schedules if I'm going from A to B. If you're asking to go to a particular location that is not usually defined, then the cost of that is adjusted or asked for or demanded as the proprietary would suggest. We had this in Annapolis where we had both water ferries as well as water taxis. Water taxi is extremely successful. Again, it's not managed by the town, but it is licensed by a town. And of course, there's all kinds of state and federal regulations on what the vessel needs to be and the safety of it and how you can embark and debark passengers. But it really creates a wonderful advantage and service to a particular maritime area.
Just if I could, just because it's so interesting to me, I think it's a great idea. I hear that the town, not the town, but the area has a water taxi now. But I think you're talking about a water taxi that services the mooring field and boaters. In other words, would a resident be able to call the water taxi and leave Fishtail Marina and head down to Moss Marina to go hit some restaurants and then go back? Or is it servicing primarily boaters?
Absolutely. In Annapolis, where we had basically two sections of the city, we had the Annapolis proper, we had Eastport, we had attractions on both sides, we had restaurants on both sides. If somebody was in Annapolis and they wanted to go to Eastport to a restaurant, again, they can call a water taxi and do that. And we had such a successful water taxi program is that there was scheduled stops, but that takes a higher level of the amount of service. There were several water taxis operating simultaneously. But yes, it's a point-to-point request. It really is, as it said, it is a taxi service.
So just to understand from a town staff perspective and to get some more feedback, a docking facility to accommodate a water taxi, a town docking facility to accommodate a water taxi, is that also something?
It can be. It doesn't need to be. Like Jim mentioned, if you have an established marina, like Fishtail, all you need is permission from Fishtail to be able to land and depart from. There's tremendous advantage to them, of course, if you're bringing people there, you have a restaurant, it's excellent. It's again up to the town to determine that these are particular areas that you're approved to embark and debark from. You don't have to do that, but to some degree, there's some safety regulations associated with that.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask is in talking with our coastal engineer and trying to do some strategic planning on facilities for the mooring field and for just marine operations in general, one of their suggestions was, Bayside Park being so centrally located, having a marginal dock there as a facility for such an operation or operations may be something that the committee can discuss on future agenda items.
Again, something that can be considered, and as long as the park doesn't, or the town doesn't have any objections, landing at a place like this. It doesn't have a particular landing zone, or not made up for a landing zone, but the water taxi can accommodate that by having a forward lift or stairs associated with their vessel. So you can use a lot of places that wouldn't be considered, what would you say, I don't want to say proper, but common landing facilities, depending on how the water taxi wants to operate or what tasks they take on. You can have a lot of places where you can land that is not designated as a landing zone.
Yeah, so there's grant opportunities that are coming up for boating access, water access, public access and getting them out on the water, and these things all have timelines on it. So again, to your point, creating a facility that accommodates the activity, the use, and then getting funding for such a facility and designing it for, to put people into our, the heart of Fort Myers Beach, maybe something that you would like to give some feedback to council on.
When you talk about fishtails, a wonderful example, it wouldn't be the town's job to arrange that as a water taxing station. It would be between the proprietary of the operator, and they would negotiate with fishtail.
Understood.
Yeah.
Because you're not recommending the town subsidize that operator. You're saying it's just
Not
a
at all.
private business, which we had. I don't know if we still have the taxi service or not. I haven't seen them since the storm, but we did have one.
We did have one, that was
Yeah,
my
of
question,
course,
yeah.
He was there all the time, and he was working the mooring field,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he was doing exactly what you're saying, but, you know, I don't know whether,
Well, we don't have one currently from what I
I don't know.
can see.
It's probably not
So-
viable until we.
I mean, I don't know there's enough
things
business
board,
for him to
yeah.
come out.
So how this would operate, if it was Butch's water taxi, he would have the mooring people pay a flat rate, and then he would be on call with those people that paid a flat rate for the service, for the tender service, basically is what it was. The thing with him was out of season, he would pull his boat because there wasn't enough traffic
Yeah.
to sustain him. And then in season, when things started picking up, then he would appear back in the area and start setting up his program again.
That's
we
great.
we haven't had him since the storm. So I will reach out to him and see what his plans are, and I'll get you an answer for that.
I think you've touched on even a broader issue based on Chad's comments, because if we, as a town, we don't have to run the water taxi, and probably shouldn't, but if we could have facilities that would help support it and encourage it. Plus, I think we're gonna need to be thinking about, with the water ferry coming online, particularly with their interest in servicing the Mound House as a stop as well, we might need some facilities for that boat, the ferry, to dock at the Mound House where it may not presently work. So again, in your grant writing opportunities, I think that should be part of our strategic plan. Anything we can do to not only encourage a water taxi, but also to encourage the privately operated water ferry service that I think is coming shortly.
Possibly an advantage over something, and water ferry, this would have no effect on that at all. The water ferry has certainly got its advantages and should be pursued, which I'm glad to hear that is. But this is, Austin talked about basically serving the mooring field. And I'm trying to propose something that's more advanced. For example, dock Fords coming over to the island in particular, or proper, could be a very viable thing to do. If you want to take the water taxi and you don't, the ferry service, and you don't want to wait for the particular schedule, you can say, I want to go now. And,
Or you just missed the boat, you want to call a taxi.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just suggesting like license it like we do with the Parasail or beach or whatever, they, you know, you grant X amount of licenses and that
Yeah.
kind of locks in that business for that.
That's
Is
a
there an
wonderful.
authority? Is there the authority to do that? Or can anybody get a taxi and run a taxi service?
That's gonna be.
We can discuss that with the town attorney and see what
Yeah.
the ins and outs legally are. But anytime you're doing that, you look at town resources, town staff resources, and see what our capacity is to deal with regulating another
Thing.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
But-
this would be a high priority for the town because it potentially impacts traffic congestion, which is our number one problem on the island. I mean, it's not going to solve it, but it's certainly, anything we can do to mitigate it.
Yeah, if we had a town docking facility for a ferry / taxi, that facility would be regulated and perhaps, maybe you're charging a nominal fee for landing or something to that effect.
But the Parasail, excellent example. Somewhat that type of business.
And it maybe gives them a reason to, as the town grows, then if they can get a license, that makes it more valuable for them to have a business and want to do that.
Absolutely.
We've got other competition in a way coming in.
And usually it's a period of time. You're licensed for,
Yeah.
I don't know, a year, 2 years, and they have to be renewed. If the performance is not acceptable, you find somebody else if they choose to compete.
And normally, before they get to the town, at least in the past, you get a Lee County occupational license. And in order to get the Lee County occupational license, to have any charter boat, you're going to need a home base, in addition to all the stops you might make.
Yes, you have to, you have to have some place to keep your vessels when they're.
Yeah, or a home base, yeah, for, before you go on to get
Exactly.
your other locations. Anything else on that, water taxis?
Sam, I wonder if, since we haven't really had time to digest this, if it makes sense to go through it line by line, or I might suggest something for Austin and Chad to help us with. Since this is 2 years old, are there things here that just aren't pertinent anymore that probably could be wiped off and then we wouldn't have to consider them? The other thing is, I think we should, if all these things stay and they're still important, we should talk about prioritizing them and setting an order of operations, what things can happen first, what things have to happen first. And then the other thing is, and I don't know how your consultant worked on this, but to me, there seems to be like a missing category of just your basic foundational. Here's what we have to have that's operational in order to be functional and deliver all of these other things. So we have 70 mooring balls here, we have 19 here, they have to be up to date, we have to maintain them, we have to do these things. And maybe that's, maybe that's overkill, but to me, you have to have that before you can have any of these other aspirations.
We had a foundational cover page
Okay.
that I'm looking for it right now, but it generally started with safety and being a premier facility, and just it was a goal oriented of what our complying with the harbor management plan
Yeah.
and our submerged lease, and then we went on to these items. Do you
That was
remember
more
that,
of a
Austin? I
mission,
think we
that
had
was more of a
cover
mission
sheet.
and vision statement
Yes.
rather than, here's
Yeah.
really what our platform consists of. Here are the things that make up the
And
mooring
these were more
field and make
specific
up our
off of-
facilities.
Yeah, these were more specific off of that generalized sheet. But
What do we have now? How's it function?
Yeah, exactly. And what does it take to keep it functioning?
Well, starting at the beginning here, positive experience, okay, we know we want to do that. The restrooms and shower facilities were on track to get going at Matanzas with that, and there's lots of discussion of improvement down the road with that. The ice machines, we're trying to get as many facilities as we can, laundry, ice, and the restrooms all up and working, and expand them as we move along and expand the mooring field. Ongoing training, growth and capacity, more about the restrooms and the upland facilities. And as things move forward with the dinghy docks, we'll be getting, maybe some rules and regulations set up with that. We were finally getting to the point where we had good rules and regulations, especially under the bridge, for everybody, and it was moving along smoothly. We'll have to probably revisit that. Social get-togethers, we might put that on the back burner for now. Accommodate all vessels. We do have our different size in our swing capacities pretty much set up now. As we move forward, we'll be able to size our moorings to accommodate the different sizes. Long-term goals, the ship store, okay. We had that kind of up and running, and it was just getting started where Austin had some necessities available. We had Wi-Fi going, so that's going to be part of that ship store and our upland facility. Occupancy, we're definitely making progress with that as we expand. And for right now, we've got 13 running or 17 running?
I got 13 running.
13 running, and they're full, it looks like.
Absolutely.
They're full, and as the next 4 will be, or we can't use those ones right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with the Coast Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers and trying to get an answer of what we're going to do with that. So that's just been an ongoing process.
Anything happening before Christmas for the old mooring field, and those are all getting serviced? Do you want to just give that in your update next? Yeah, you'll go. You got that ready to go.
Sure.
Okay, technology improvements. Dock was up and running, and you know, as we get more upland facilities, we'll have more set up, you know, on site. And Wi-Fi we do not have right now, as far as I know, but that probably will be one of the priorities to get that up and running. Social media, we're going to expand that. And Chris is going to help with all that.
Sure.
Sam, where it says PW, I think it's PW Director, who's it stand for, what that's?
Oh, the Public Works Director.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah, they're no longer here as well.
And marine operations is under a different department now as well, so that's, we'll get this document updated, but I think we just thought it was important to get some feedback from you all and get some prioritization, as Member King suggested.
And there might be, you know, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but there may be some things that those of us on the committee are really excited about helping with, so we could have that additional assignment that we'd
Absolutely.
be a research assistant or whatever.
And we don't have to do all of this. I know everybody's kind of reading and trying to
Yeah.
get it in. We can revisit this next meeting. If
Yeah.
y'all want to take some more time to digest it, we can push it to next meeting. But if there's anything that y'all see, or to Member Nash's point, adding, you know, something that they do see pertinent, if there's anything you want to add now, or take another week or two to digest it and send comments to staff, we're welcome to the feedback.
and as we move forward, this stuff is naturally going to happen as we get our upland moving and expanding, and I believe they're out scouting for upland facilities as we move along. Right now, we just are getting up and running, but eventually we will be expanding and hopefully having some, well, that'll come up again, but we have got a lot of town-owned land, this waterfront right now, that we've got some opportunities. We're kind of back at step one for opportunities with places like Bayside, Bay Oaks, these, you know, Mountain House docks, and
Yeah, I might make one other suggestion, sorry. I see that certain things are mentioned multiple times, like restroom, showers, congregating spaces. Maybe instead of sorting them by this focus area, it's more about what it is, and then in other columns you could say, and it checks off this box, and it checks off this box. That way you're not looking at 3 different entries for bathrooms or ice makers or something. You're like,
Back to your
here's,
point about operations and building it around the operations.
Yeah,
the
so-
different components.
yeah, and then you can have in subsequent columns, you can just have, this meets a customer experience goal, this meets this other goal, and it you know, puts them more together for you so that you're not looking at the same item 6 different ways.
Yes, ma'am.
right, we can consolidate all the facility items in one, you know, all the physical
Yeah.
facility items in one, and marketing and,
Yeah.
long-term goals in another. Card key, we're going to get to that eventually. An app, we hopefully will get to that eventually also. Short-term goals, dinghy dock, that's going to be happening. We had a nice fender system going right before the storm. Security cameras, that would be, once we get established, that would be very nice to have. We've been talking about that for a long time. Law enforcement, we are integrated with them, with town staff. Lighting a dinghy dock, after dinghy dock. Communication, okay, communication to customers. That's going to be an overall thing with DACWA and our welcome package, or our welcome information.
Mr. Chairman, just as an aside, I don't want to put Jim on the spot, but I wanted our staff to know, as we look at improving lighting for the dinghy dock and all the usages, we have a lighting expert on our panel now who's truly a lighting expert, so he might be a good resource. I don't want to offer you up, Jim, but you really have a special expertise that nobody else has. You know.
Yeah, I don't think it's probably too complicated on the dock with lighting, but happy to help with that. Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
Well, it gets a little more complicated when we start doing cameras and angles, and that could be very helpful.
Yeah, not as complicated as the beach, as lighting is. On the other side, it gets way more complicated.
Or lack of lighting, right? Yeah.
Right.
Dimming. Communication between provider and staff. We're keeping that open. Updates between the committee and town council. Thankfully, we have Jim here that's attending all our meetings and being a very good liaison back and forth with us, both here and at the town hall meetings.
Jim, when should we be making presentations to the council? I mean, are you speaking on our behalf, or should
No,
it-
absolutely.
should we be doing
Whenever there's
something?
an initiative, there's a deliverable, whenever there's something that you want to bring to the council's attention, someone from the committee is welcome. Usually the chair comes, but anyone's welcome to come and present and request, suggest, persuade, dissuade, whatever the committee's will is. I think the council is very interested in any recommendation you might have. I don't think there's an obligatory monthly update that you need to do, but if there's something of substance that you want either action on or support or staff support or whatever, I think it's great to have you come to the council and just give them an overview. At some point, we'll have the staff do that as well once we get a little bit more posty and focused again. I think there's a lot of good news out there, but so it really works rather informally. I think it works best when the committees come when they've got something to really ask for or report on or inform the council. And I will serve as that liaison too. I'll give you a heads up. And as I sit here and listen, as we have something that's ready to go, I'll say, boy, this would be great for somebody to come and present to the council, and I'll try to get some guidance on that. But it's not, there's no system for it, Chris. It's more, just as needed, I guess, I think works best.
One advantage to that is during committee reports, anyone from the committee could come. For instance, John, if he had a presentation on this water taxi thing, advantage to it is you're not limited to the 3 minutes. And you can do it during the committee reports.
You can take questions.
And actually get the attention during the committee rather than with all the noise of the general.
And it's at the front of the meeting too, so you don't have to stay for 7 variances or whatever.
What? That's what fun.
Yeah, it's a lot
So
of fun.
Sam, it may be obvious or may not, certainly isn't obvious to me, if we are going to present something like Jim's talking about, it should be agreed upon and approved by the committee first?
It can or cannot be. If it is approved, you can say I'm speaking on behalf of what we discussed. However, if you had something that you wanted to discuss that we didn't discuss here, you can just say that I'm coming as a member of the committee. However, this is my individual thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do it either way.
I think it has more gravitas when the committee's saying,
Collective,
hey,
yeah.
we're putting John up to pitch this,
Yes.
water taxi idea, whatever it might be. I think it just speak on behalf of the committee, I think adds a certain gravitas to it. Certainly anybody can come to the council and petition, but I think it's great to be united as a committee where best we can, and I think we'll all be. It seems like everybody's going to work well together here.
Hold
So
more weight.
And especially if it's based on a motion that we are specifically sending up there. Okay, marketing plan. We will be doing that as we move along. That's one of the major focuses of this exercise. And commercial or customer feedback. Create a center for communication, rules, events, plans, and other information. We really had that going strong. Austin had that really going strong with our central headquarters before the storm, and I think he'll be able to, once we get up and rolling again, we'll be able to jump right back into that. There was a lot of good stuff going on. People were getting all the information they needed. There was even some products and things that you had at the shop there that were really helpful, that were really helping people out. Long-term goals, dedicated website. Not sure we're going to need that since we have DACWA and we've got our page on our own website. However, one suggestion I have that I've used in the past is if we did want to buy a domain name, you don't have to establish an entire website. You can use your domain name and forward it to the town page if we wanted to do any marketing with our specific domain name.
Or just reserve it?
And open communication between staff and council and the committee. I think we're doing good on that. Anybody have any other suggestions? I think maybe we should just look at this and maybe try to rewrite. Maybe next meeting we'll try to go over it, cross out a bunch, rewrite it, and maybe, like Chris says, categorize it into maybe physical items of upland things,
Yeah.
and then, you know, town things that Austin would be in charge of, town things that council would be, be able to help.
I think it'd be helpful to just have it updated.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a very complicated exercise here. There's 3 pages of
Yeah.
goals that it sounds like Austin would like to have us get done. And if it could just be updated so we know where we're at today, that would be helpful.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to lose sight of the focus areas and those goals, but there is a lot of overlap on a lot of these things. And
Yes.
so if we could consolidate it in a way that we're talking about it once, but getting to all of the tactics that fall under restrooms, all of the tactics that fall under lighting, so that we're not piecemealing it. I think that would be easier to digest.
And those are going to work themselves out naturally as we get more facilities going. There was another page that everybody got that was a management plan. It was a landscape page. I don't have it with me.
It was the strategic overview.
Yes, the
mission and
strategic
vision.
overview, which actually was the, I think, outline for
Yeah.
this. Okay, anything more on that for now, or we'll kind of absorb that?
Yeah, the goal, I mean, I agree with all those comments, and I mean, there's some that obviously minimize as much as you can, investigate feasibility, value, conducting weekly meet and greet, it's 7/1/22. If that's can be taken off, let's just take it off, and let's consolidate it. Is there things that we should have, after storm that should be added on here? That's what this is an older document.
Right.
You would think there's some new things we need to be focused on.
Prioritize on.
Yeah, so once we get it consolidated, maybe it'd be easier to kind of say, well, here's maybe a gap or something that.
Yeah, the reason this was presented the way it was is there was questions about the strategic action plan and what it was. We wanted to present it as it was when we had it. How this was developed was through a workshop where everybody sat down and we went through. It wasn't individual staff members like doing this or that. It was everybody with the facilitator that we had contracted out to move this along and do it. And if we want, we'll discuss about getting another workshop together where we all can just sit in a table, bring in some voters, and then go over the actual concerns and the actual future of the mooring field, and exactly get everybody's input all together. And then however you guys want to format it, we can discuss that as well. And then from there, we can update the file and get new goals and new objectives put on it. And then from there, categorize it however you'd like.
I mean, this is in an Excel, right? Or is this a table?
Yeah, I believe it's just an Excel.
Yeah, so-
It's not anything complicated.
Yeah, you should just be able to reorganize things and,
So like I said, it was just a conjoined effort, and we didn't want to sit there and do it on our own.
Yeah.
We want this to be a working document where we all work together on it and move forward.
A lot of these things are going to be long-term, but we have the advantage of starting,
over.
with a blank canvas, and that's going to be really nice to do. And a lot of the stuff's going to be way long-term, and it's going to change along the way as we start getting more facilities going. Okay, we can work on that next meeting also. Also, would you like to give your staff report? That way when we get to our reports, we can ask any questions.
Yeah, that's fine. I did lay out basically the report in front of you there. It gives kind of all the hard data. What we're trying to do is kind of uniform our reports so that the data itself is updated and not the formatting or anything like that. We'd like to get more towards the hard data so you guys have an actual outline of what's going on in the field. With our DACA program, we're able to categorize and run reports based on length, occupancy, whatever it may be. We can centralize those reports and then we can add it into these pivot tables, and that's how we come up with these numbers here. And this is basically what we've been running from October to September, running off of the 13 systems that we did have. Even though we did have 12, we weren't up to capacity at those times for the 12 or for that one that really mattered at the time. But it is calculated into it now. Since then, that one that was damaged has been repaired, so we are able to collect funds on it again. As you can see, in October, we were running at 45%. September, the 28%. Moving forward though, the pump outs are starting to take off more. We're starting to get more boaters coming to the area. Not only that, we've had a inspection come through with the CDA people who have updated their information on their websites as well to notify any boaters coming to this area that we do have pump out facilities available now. So we're getting a lot of influx from people, not only from Sanibel, Cape Coral, on down the island as well. People are meeting us in the mooring field and getting their vessels pumped out. This is anywhere from large yachts to small recreational vessels. So that's what's going on with the pump outs. That's why we're seeing an influx. We still don't have a pump out facility yet. We are contracting out for a truck to come in and do the truck out once a month, which is being reimbursed for the CBA grant, so there's no cost to the town. Our facilities have been up and running as of November 1st. We do have 2 bathrooms, 2 shower facilities with a washer and dryer unit in there as well. That is at Matanzas Inn. The dinghy dock, we are in the process of getting the material for it. We have a PO out and getting the material bought so we can get that temporary dock put back together and put back in the water. At this time, for us to facilitate people coming to the land, the mooring people are provided with docking at Matanzas, and we worked out a deal with them where in their canal area they have a dock with usage that people can step up and get to land using those services. Right off of that's where the laundry services are, and then across the street would be the bathrooms. If you guys have any time, come down. We'll give you a tour of the facilities and what we're operating on. As of the mooring systems themselves, we do have 13 operational. Like I had mentioned before, the number 3's it's been repaired, so we are able to collect revenue on it. And then a PO has been written, and we're just waiting on the contractors to come through to rebuild the 70 systems. It's been paid for and everything. The last update I had, they were waiting on the mooring, the floating mooring balls themselves. I informed them that we have plenty of them, so hopefully they'll be here sooner than later and start the construction of the previous mooring field that was damaged during the storm, which will put us up to 70 more systems on the hook there. The maintenance, staff goes out every 3 months, cleans the new systems that we have. Even though we're not utilizing the 6 that have been interference there, we still clean them and maintain them as we are using them. There are zinc anoid sacrifices down there that we switch out as needed. We go down and inspect them every 3 months, and then with that we do a cleaning, and every month we do inspect them and clean pennant lines and make sure all of the landing line and hardware is clean and usable and safe to use. Like I said, as of last month, we have 98% on the new zincs. We did switch them out from the original zincs that were. So we're getting about 3 to 4, I'd say about 5 months usage out of the zincs. So we just go down, and it takes about half a day to go down and replace those. The pump out boat's running. We are, like I reported last, we have been receiving some kind of wear and tear damage on it that we've just been upkeeping. Steering went out this month. We replaced some lines and it got the steering back up and going, but it's just an ongoing thing because if anybody knows with the boat, it's just ongoing maintenance. We collected 1,107 gallons of waste this last month in October, which we're starting to see an influx in that as well. And in the mooring area, it says 50% of the boats are getting pumped out because the other ones are pretty much just dry storage. Nobody's on them, so they're not getting pumped out as on a weekly basis. People come on and they'll stay for the weekend or something like that, and then we'll go out and pump out that after that. But that's upon request. We are pursuing FWC grants to improve boater access and infrastructures. As Chad mentioned earlier with the water taxis and stuff, anything that will help the public will help us achieve a grant. If it's more public driven, whether it be a ramp, whether it be a landing area or anything like that to help the public at large, that better qualifies us for the grant. So we're working on that as well. The maritime debris is an ongoing project. We had this month, I guess just, what was it, this last week? Last week with the island. Yeah, we had a project with Estero Bay Aquatic Reserve.
FDP.
FDEP basically is what it was. And then, Chad was working, but basically we went over to Bird Island with the group, with a couple different groups. That island hasn't been touched at all. We cleared that, well, we filled up a 20-yard dumpster in about an hour or so. We cleared out as much as we can, but there's ongoing projects to remove that as well. The Canals is an ongoing process as well. We do have side scans scheduled to come through and do side scans on the canals and all the waters within the jurisdictions of Fort Myers Beach, so we can get a better idea of what's down there. We also working with FEMA to have fundings and to get those canals and all the debris removed within a reasonable time. Channels, we still operate with the FWC, with LCSO, with identifying and removing all debris in the channels. As I mentioned last time, LCSO, they just happened to do a side scan and ended up finding 2 sunken vessels in the channels out back in the bay. So that's an ongoing process as well. Then again, like I did mention, we are working with DEP to get the islands that were missed taken care of. So not only the Bird Island, but they're recognizing other islands in the area that we're trying to help with and facilitate any removal of debris and get that moving along as well. With the lagoons is on the beachfront as well. In the CWA area, we have lagoons that have debris in them as well, but we've been advised to have contractors come in and remove that debris, so we're working with contractors to get that debris removed. And staff continues with the operations to clear out the beachfront and the submerged debris. We have acquired some metal detecting devices so that we can do patterns out there and find anything submerged that may just the corner or something may be sticking up that maybe presents a hazard to somebody, that staff can dig it out and prevent anybody from ruining their vacation, basically. Anchored vessels, we went over, what's going on with the anchored vessels. We provided the no pump out list and everything that we've been observing out there. We've been documenting, again, it falls under the 4 characteristics that are under the anchored vessel report here, are the 4 that meet the criteria for an at-risk vessel. So. Boat ramps is an issue on the beach as well. We've been discussing how to get these boat ramps open back up and usable to the public. There's grants and things like that are available for boat ramps. It's just criteria is met that we're trying to meet is where we're exploring right now. Whether it be parking, whether it be size, whether it be accessibility, we're going into and looking at all of these boat ramps that we have. We have one right here at the Mountain House, if you guys see that one. It's basically for kayaks and things like that. We also have one at Bayview Drive, Coconut, and Miramar. Although the Coconut one we have closed down due to damages, and I guess people have been using it, causing more damage to the road and to the ramp itself. There are areas around the island that staff has been cautioning off due to damage, so we just don't want to open ourselves up to any liabilities that may be of us trying to have people utilize these areas that are not safe, even though they are public land. We're trying to minimize injuring, damage, or anything like that. So we have been closing a lot of these areas until we can find a solution or funding to better repair that area or get it usable again. The observation piers, they're all usable at this time. They really didn't sustain too much damage. They were all basically pretty new. They're using Ipe wood, which is Brazilian oak wood, which is it's a very hard wood. So basically, we lost a couple benches at a few of them, and then the ramp at Coconut was closed. So that's what's going on with the bayside accesses as well. All right.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Austin?
Just a couple. So you collected 1,107 gallons of storage. What would be, or what has been the normal amount you would do in a month?
A month, it just varies from season to season. Typically, we would do about 1,000 gallons a month. Out of season, about 1 pump out a month. But during season, we do about 700 gallons a week. So we do about a pump out every week, about 4 times a month during that time. Yeah.
What's the percentage of completion on the mooring fields debris? I know it's kind of a stab in the dark, but what are you thinking?
Where's side scans coming up to assess it?
Yeah, that's where the side scans are coming in. At this time, I know of maybe 2 vessels that are in the bottom there, but other than that, we've done dives on the front of the mooring field that has been damaged, and we found some debris that we've marked, but I can't give you a number exactly what's down.
So you'll be doing better inspection as you get ready to open up the balls in the
We
main
have
field.
equipment coming through that's going to map the bottom and give us every little piece of debris that is down there so we can identify it and get it removed. That's what we're working with FEMA, and we have a FEMA contact that we've been working with that's been really adamant on helping us out. So we're just trying to get the equipment in. We're waiting on the contractors. I guess they rented the equipment for it to come in, and as soon as it comes in, we're going out and mapping the area.
Sounds good. Do you have any sort of estimate on how many islands still need to be inspected or cleaned up?
Within our jurisdiction right now, all I know is of the one, and that one was such disrepair that I think that's major focus right now until they move on. Like I said, the contractors came in, and the thing with that island, I think it's a no contact island, so the contractors weren't able to get on it and remove it. So DEP is really doing a good job in assessing all of their area. We see boats out there all the time going out, so hopefully we get more information from them and we can help them more in removing what needs to be removed. But as of this time, I just know of the one.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just curious, Austin, you mentioned something about the beach and debris that you pick up over there. Is that growing? Is that going down? I mean, is it staying the same? I mean,
It comes up with storms.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's mostly loose debris that's coming in with tides. We're noticing a bunch of wash up, but things that if you've been on the beach, you've noticed there's one sand dune there. In between the sand dune and things get trapped. They're not able to go back out. So we'll walk patterns and do patterns within that area there to pull out everything we can. But it's with any tide, we'll get in different chunks of different
every day?
Yeah.
How can I mark things when I'm walking the beach? Because just this past week, I've found 2 submerged metal things and a buried lawn chair, and I don't always have something to mark it with so that somebody will find it. I do my best to haul it up, but
If you have a phone with you, if you have a phone, sometimes the Apple phones allow you to put pins. If you want to do that pin and share your location with staff.
I have an Android,
And then something else that I do is I'll take a picture of the debris or the item, and then I'll spin around and try and take a picture of the upland structure that it gives an idea, some perspective to staff of where it's actually located and kind of where we're at with relation to the tide.
Okay.
You know, that'd honestly be good direction, you know, I don't know, from the PIO on what, because that's like a major topic. You know, you heard it yesterday at the LPA, you know, you heard it from the Roxy, from Chamber of Commerce, you know, everybody's saying that's the biggest thing. And on social media, you see people all the time talking about how don't come to Fort Myers Beach because it's so dangerous. I mean, it's like the same beach I go to, I haven't noticed that.
Yeah, I did get a piece of good news from Rick Armstrong, is in charge of Lee County Environmental Lab, and he said this, you know, almost a year ago, and he reiterated it. We were at an FGC recruiting event, and he reiterated that Irma was a big water quality, had a big water quality effect because of all the watershed that affected us. Whereas the water quality here after Ian, for 2 months it was bad, but it bounced back a lot more quickly. But to your point about the debris, we are working on an initiative to, we just need to show that, hey, we're scanning this area, the debris, we're bringing in the debris, and as these storms keep coming in, we'll continue to get that debris out of there and start getting a message out there that we are open, that,
But you're right, water quality too. You see that all the time. Don't get in the water. If you got a open wound, you're gonna lose a limb. But that's
yeah, the
council.
messaging
That's
from environmental labs that the water quality is actually really good. Within 2-3 months of Ian, it returned back to normal conditions.
Yeah, we've been getting good clarity on our dives. We've been seeing large schools of fish. We've been seeing a lot on the underwater work. It's a lot more clear than it has been in the past.
I see it out there all the time, but that's not what people on the rest of the world say.
Yep. We'll work on getting our narrative out.
But do encourage people to wear shoes on the beach because there still are shards of glass and metal and
Even without.
sharp things that they pick up.
There's
in
shells,
the
I mean, there's,
Yeah.
you come from up north and your feet are all tender from socks and, you need that good callus of, an iron callus before you can go barefoot.
So isn't there a Florida website, I don't know who sponsors it, but that gives you reports on water quality, right?
DOH Healthy Beaches is on the beach side, and then Lee County Environmental Lab does a great job of doing regular sampling in Estero Bay, throughout Lee County, but it includes regular sampled locations in Estero Bay.
And they're suggesting maybe some public, either on the town or even Beach Talk, somebody give people information that,
Do you monitor those, Chad, those reports?
Yes, sir. I haven't had time to monitor them as much as I'd like to and do all the data stuff.
But I guess my point is, if you see a real positive report, could you get that to Jenny and have Jenny, our PIO, and put that out? Because the social media is terrible. Somebody sees a piece of glass, it's like, oh, don't come. I mean, I've been swimming in there, walking along. It's so overblown. It's
even
so
I gave up commenting on it. Jokes.
Good idea.
But yeah, if you see something like where one of these data centers comes out with a good report, just to get that out to the public, especially as we go into season.
Absolutely.
I mean, that seems like a no-brainer, but yeah, because it seems the negativity is so overblown. It's unfortunate. Yeah.
As far as location of debris, I have a GPS app on my phone. Would that be of use to you, or is it just not accurate enough?
No, anyone that, send us what you have and we can do some more reconnaissance. If we can't relocate it, at least we have a contact, we have an image, and we can figure it out. But if you don't send anything,
Yeah.
we don't know if the tree fell,
Yeah, a lot of time I'll see the public works people and I'll flag them down if I'm standing here, but sometimes they're not around, so.
Absolutely, yeah, just send it to Austin or I
Okay.
and we'll get on top of it.
Austin, in your report, you mentioned that half of the mooring fields were dry storage. And maybe Chris is going to get to this in her comments, but it seems like Chris asked a lot of really good, broader questions in her query, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it seems like as we do this strategic plan, and which is great, and the preamble, I understand it's not with it, but we ought to have some kind of a preamble that says, hey, this is why we have a mooring field for the town. Well, there's an education piece as well as an accountability piece. Here's why we have a mooring field. In itself, the goal is to have it self-sustaining in terms of finance. And then here's who we're trying to attract. In other words, if we're trying to attract dry storage, that's fine. But if we're trying to attract people to stay just for 1 or 2 weeks, we ought to let that be known, and then have all of our strategies, wrap around what we're trying to do. Because you guys, and quite frankly, the people at this table are so in the boating world. There's a whole world out there that has no idea why we do what we do. Why is the town involved in the mooring field business? I think if we just had a simple preamble as to what we're trying to accomplish and why, I think it could really help from an education standpoint to just bring public opinion around us and support what we're trying to do. Because I quite honestly, as somebody who didn't have the background myself until I went on the boat with Austin about a year ago, or roughly a year ago, I learned more in an hour than I had my whole lifetime about why we do what we do and why it's so important. And I just think that, and Chris raised a lot of these good questions in her email the other day, and I just think we ought to somehow incorporate that into the preamble of the strategic report, not only for strategic purposes, but also for educational purposes as well. Because I think it's so helpful to tell our story.
Yeah, and that's really been a factor in making and breaking a lot of our projects, because people didn't even know why or what we did, but as soon as we explained to them and showed them that this just isn't a shot in the dark, this is a well-known practice, and this isn't something that we're inventing, this is something a lot of municipalities do for benefits of the municipality, it changed the overall look of that project and how we went about getting approval for it. So just the education aspect of it is, I think, the foremost front of what I would like to achieve. Not only that, but the product that we are providing needs to be top-notch and safe. But beyond that, it's going to be the educational part of why we do this.
And it'll affect our marketing strategy as well as to who we're trying to attract and why. Yeah.
Anybody else? I had a couple comments. when we're using the canal at Matanzas, it's probably pretty empty right now, but as the restaurants open, as we get more people going on that canal, did we want to, as a courtesy then, maybe have a sign, you know, between here and here is for dinghies, or is it designated?
Yeah, we have it set up, and we in the communications upon the lease agreement, we vocalize what our expectations are as far as dinghying, where to dinghy and what to do. And we do stress, do not impede the restaurant traffic. Try not to intermingle with that. Not only does it interfere with their restaurant, it's a safety issue as well. Bigger boats coming in there on the dinghies might not, and just the congestion is not a good mix. So I want to kind of keep, and we stress that, please stay separate from the restaurant business. And we're only looking at maybe 6 dinghies at a time due to, we're only, 50% of the field is wet storage, so those people aren't coming in and utilizing the dock. It's the people that are transient coming in and exploring and then leaving and things.
So do you send them farther down the canal, away from the restaurant?
Yeah, we have the pump out boat down there, and then there's 2 posts that we direct them to stay between, and then as long as they dock between those 2 posts, then we should be all right.
Perfect. How are we doing on a land location for the sewer pump out, to hooking up to central sewer?
Yeah, so we just acquired a pump, a nice trash pump that we could probably hook up and pump it out. But getting to approval from the county as a site is we've got to re-explore the area. Like I said before, they told us that where we were trying to do under the bridge was not doable. So that's where we've got to explore our landside options and see exactly what is an option for us to tie into, and then get approval to see if it will actually work. So that's all going to come into the land acquisition and where eventually we end up at.
Right. And at that point, you put an installation into the
Yeah.
thing that nobody can get into except you, but you can get into it. And what's the holdup on the extra 6 balls on the north end? Is that the
Army
submerged
Corps
land
of
lease?
Engineer and U.S. Coast Guard.
So we've gone as far, you put it in their lap for now?
Yeah, we're just waiting on a response. We're working with our engineer, our marine engineer, to communicate the stress of what we're doing and get more feedback with them. So it's an ongoing process.
And I know this isn't our ramp, but we're trying to get our ramps up and running. Is there any update on Lover's Key boat ramp?
No, we haven't even been down there to really explore that lately.
It's just all, I go by it all the time.
Yeah.
It's just all tethered off. I don't see any work going on there, but that'd be nice if that would get open one of these days.
Yeah, they had it open for contractors, but I think it comes back to the safety issue, and then the contractors have to sign liability contracts to use it.
Yeah. Anybody else anything for Austin or Chad?
Just a positive comment. Living on the St. Carlos Pass, there's about half mile in, there's an area that a lot of people use as an anchorage. And I'm starting to see a lot more traffic coming back to there. So that I'm getting some sort of positive feedback from that.
Good, we'll move on to members' items. Chris?
I have 2 things. We talk about we want the mooring fields to be self-sustaining. Can you explain to me what all that includes? Does that include facilities and staff time and everything? So all in, anything that it takes to support those mooring fields, it will be self-sustaining by the amount that we charge for mooring and the grants that we receive? Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect. And my second thing is, when we look at the other committees that exist, so there's MRF, can you tell me a little bit more about our swim lanes? It seems like there are some things that we're crossing over with MRF, maybe, just because we don't know exactly what they should be doing or what we should be doing, and this is me being new. So can you just explain how those 2 committees sort of ride alongside each other, or if there are points of connectivity, are there projects we should work on together?
So this is just me speaking as a lowly staff member. There's always going to be crossover. It's kind of like, with me being environmental, sometimes everything seems environmental that's coming at me, and I have to tell people, that's, everything has to do with the environment, but it's not necessarily, environmental per se. So I think sometimes it kind of goes here with MRF being a Marine and Environmental Resource Task Force versus you're the Anchorage Committee dealing with you know, anchorage and mooring in the town's jurisdiction that has environmental implications. So there's going to be some obvious overlap there, and I think that that's fine. It's great. The more people we have speaking towards topics and giving feedback for the community, to give council direction of the community's feelings towards our initiatives, the better. But you know, long and short is I would look towards the council to get direction as to what they want you working on, and use the opportunities for the community updates at council to get direction, get feedback from the council, and have that direction from council so that you know whenever you're working on something, it's something the council wants to hear back, and that means that there's going to be, you have champions on the council to make those ideas actionable. So look to council for direction on what they want you working on, and I think that will be fruitful.
Okay. So, you know, last time we talked about canals and whether we should have some sort of input on canal dredging and making them navigable and things like that. Do you still see that as part of our?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's mooring, it's navigation, it's in the boating community. Okay. Having said that, I think everybody wants the canals cleaned up. I mean, what are we talking about? And really, it's on staff and our consultants to try and get the funding for it. I mean, nobody's arguing. We want the debris out. We want safe, clear navigation. You know, if there's anything more that we need to add to that, please let staff know, let council know. If there's ideas for funding it, please let staff know, let council know. But I don't think there's any, you know, what else do we really need to talk about with, you know?
Well, I think on that particular issue, Chad, it depends on, I think you're right post-Ian, but I think we've also got another challenge that I think our interim town manager, Keith Wilkins, is working on a project to figure out a way to fund the overall maintenance of the canals going forward, making sure they're dredged properly, working on seawalls, and then how to fund that dynamic, whether it be through grants or assessments of people on the canals, through their property taxes. And I think when that proposal comes out, or at least that report comes out, I think at some point one of these advisory committees is going to be tasked with looking at it. My recommendation is it's this committee, because we've got a lot of voters on this committee, people who know that world very well. And I mentioned it at the council meeting the other day. So I think when that report actually comes out, I think that'll be the opportunity for council to say, hey, we want this to go to the Anchorage Advisory Committee, or if some say we want it to go to MRF, the council will wrestle with that. But I think this is the appropriate committee to wrestle with that. But I think the impetus for that will be when that report comes out.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And just to educate everybody, so you have the MSBU, and this Municipal Service Benefiting Unit, or Municipal Tax, I don't know, it's an acronym basically saying these properties are benefiting from this project, and therefore, you know, we will tax you in order to get this project done. Mm-hmm. So it's a sticky situation whenever we start talking about the T word. It's, you know, and everyone is feeling the effects of Hurricane Ian, so it's something we need to gauge on whether or not the community has the appetite to fund a canal maintenance program. My advice as staff is we need to maintain our canals. We need to keep data on the depth, and it's like the beach. We do annual monitoring of our beach profiles every 1,000 feet. Every year we know what's accreting, what's eroding, and what's happening on that beach, and how much sand we have, because that's our environmental resource, our economic resource, and we need to manage that resource. And the only way you can manage it is if you know what's happening, so that if, you know, we're putting 1 million cubic yards on that beach, and in 2 years, 3 years, we know what's happening, and the storm wipes that out. Because we've been maintaining it, we can go to different agencies to help us recoup some of that loss. Whereas, you know, with the canal maintenance program in the past, my understanding is there was a lack of funding, and even though there was a canal maintenance program to assess canals and depths, etc., and get dredging done, there was only one canal that actually got dredged since, you know, the early 2000s, and, you know, not much had been done on that front. Theoretically, you know, either a lack of, you know, no news is good news. Maybe there wasn't an issue, so why do we do anything? But if we don't maintain it, if we don't monitor it, it's tough to get funding on the back end when something bad like Hurricane Ian happens. So I agree with you, Councilman Adderhall. I think this is a great committee to address those issues and give council.
Do we know where Keith is on that project?
Yeah, I talked to him last night. I think they are 2 nights ago, and I think we're going to be getting some feedback from him and the town manager on some direction to staff. And
But he's close to having a report, I guess.
I'll have more information
That's
later
fine.
today.
All right.
Can I ask a question? Some 23 years ago, when Fishtail was being rebuilt, there became a question of what part of the canal is public land and what is private. And it varied from canal to canal. And I'm wondering how that feeds into your overall view of putting things together under the same tax or...
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to look at how you prioritize which canals would get dredged, which canals have public access, which canals have private businesses that offer public docking, which canals have submerged bottoms that are owned by private individuals, all these things, and then which canals have residents, property owners that want to dredge versus don't want to dredge. So it's dynamic, it's multifactorial that you have to assess all the issues and prioritize accordingly.
Okay, so that's in the matrix of things you're trying to figure out.
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha, thanks.
That's it, thank you.
John?
I'm good. I've asked enough questions.
Ed?
Good.
Ed?
And I don't have anything.
Jim?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to interrupt Chris's, but I mean, I do agree with that. You know, being a new member, I'm also trying to get my feet under me and understand what we can provide value, to the organization and to the council. And that was helpful, when you put this together, because when I read the code and exactly what the Anchorage Advisory Committee is by definition, all matters relevant to the management and use of the waters of the town for mooring and anchoring, it's very limiting. And we've already in this meeting discussed many things that are beyond that. We did talk about picking up debris on the beach and things like that are important. And the other part that you put that was helpful to me is the first part, which is the marine operations in general. Listing 4 things: the mooring field, maritime, canals, markers, docking, which we've all talked about in here, the beaches, which we've also talked about, renourishment, and then the wildlife and vegetation environmental, which we understand is completely with Murph. So while I understand there's overlap, I also think that there's an opportunity to better define the role of this, this committee so that we understand where we should operate and not operate. And I don't think that's clear, with the code as it's currently written. And I don't know what the council, expects, of that in terms of, our inputs. I will say that from my limited experience in watching council meetings, which I do watch many of them, you're great on that.
I'm sorry.
I don't watch them all. I don't watch the whole, I have to work part of it, but in between conference calls, I can do that. I've seen a lot more. I mean, Murph does a great job. They're very involved, particularly when, when you think about the environmental of wildlife, turtles and other, marine animals, and then the lighting, which we know is a big topic, obviously, and it should be. And some of those other things, I see them giving council input often. Honestly, I haven't seen that much from the Anchorage Committee, and I don't know, I think most of it is operational and supporting Austin and the team, there, and very little in terms of advising to the council. So I'm asking, is there an area where we could, if it's not involving marine animals and things like that, is there something that they don't focus on, some of the things that we talk about in this committee, and if we could make that more defined?
I think that's a great idea, and I think, of course, council can assign certain things to any advisory committee at any time. It's at their discretion, but to your point, I still think on this council, there's a lack of awareness as to what's going on, what's our purpose, what's our overall goal.
Yeah.
I think, and then I think once that's established in a very positive way, and I think we've got a good story to tell, I think resources and focus will then direct towards what we're trying to accomplish. And as we see this gentrification occurring on this island, particularly in the downtown district, and all the activity potentially going on down there, which the mooring field surrounds, I mean, it's going to become, the symbiotic relationship between the two are going to be critical. And as we grow and expand and improve facilities and bring in more folks and sort of refocus our efforts, I think to have this committee engaged with the council and giving policy advice, I think it would be extremely welcome. I don't think it hasn't happened before because it was discouraged. I just think there's again, post-Ian, there's an increased need for what we're trying to accomplish and an increased vibrancy with what's going to go on in the downtown district, and quite frankly throughout the island as we get into the water taxi, water ferry business, and the canal issue. I think all these issues are growing in importance, and I think that partnership with the committee will be welcome.
I mean, I see it as fairly limiting in the code itself,
Yeah.
you know, by the definition of the Anchorage Committee. And I don't know what Murph says. If it covers the other items, I haven't seen the code for Murph.
I mean, I think 3 out of 4, the first 3 out of 4 seem like things that we talk about because
We
they
talk about
are
it here, maybe they
maritime,
don't.
they are
You know,
noting.
if that's the case, then it should be changed.
I hear you, what you're saying, you know, you feel that it's limiting. There's a lot coming down the pipe that we're gonna need your input on. You know, we have, you know, where are we putting our harbor master facilities? Where are we putting our pump out facilities? How we're doing things and getting that community buy-in and direction from y'all is gonna be key to making those things successful. So as we're going for grants and planning these things out and getting, I don't want you to feel like your role is minimized at all. Just this mooring field, you know, me coming onto it in the last 2-3 months, it seems like a small thing, but it's overwhelming. So staff definitely needs your
I appreciate that, Chad. I guess what I was trying, and maybe not saying right, I see that activity that you're mentioning more as a management committee, not as an advisory committee, which is great. You know, we can help manage the mooring field, and that's what needs to happen for sure. But it's also not an advisory committee to the council, which is also part of the.
And this definition can be expanded and changed at any time as we see the need change and develop and grow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and as we work on the strategic plan, there may be some things that come out of it that we do absolutely want to go in front of the council and say, look, we think this water taxi is important. We think having this canal plan is important. There are things that we're really going to stand behind. We're going to market. We think that this is an underutilized, underknown operation that brings great possibility for economic support to the town. So let's make sure that everybody's on board with moving forward and helping us do that. Like you said, Jim, I mean, it's going to be symbiotic at some point because we want those people to come by sea as well as by land.
Yeah, we're going to be going for grants for facilities that's going to require, you know, town funds to do it. And I think council's going to need the feedback from the community, which is y'all's role to, you know, help them feel good or help them feel not so good about it.
That's helpful, and this was helpful, so I appreciate that.
Yes, sir, you're welcome.
All set, Jim? And I just had a comment on that same topic. Anything that even remotely related, we can bring it up and discuss it. If it's pertinent, you know, Councilman will take it back to the council. However, we're going to have an opportunity. Ted and I have been here quite a while, and what we get to do in the next couple of years is going to be awesome. We just did it. But we looked around for upland areas. That would probably get chosen for us. But we were actually integral in planning. Bayside never went through, but we were integral in planning the buildings, the facilities, the layout, and all that. And we're going to have a chance to do that. So it's coming pretty soon, where our opinion's going to get considered for a lot of things, locations, facilities, and marketing, but mainly locations and facilities is going to be, once it starts, it'll happen pretty quick probably, so we'll get a chance to do all that. That's it for me. Did you have anything else,
Just a
Councilman?
quick question. Were we going to at some point put on the agenda at least your 10,000 foot view of what Bay Oaks will look like in terms of facilities, or are we not ready yet?
I think staff is still waiting for some feedback from our bosses.
Okay.
And waiting to get the green light, we're ready to go. I think there's some things that are still in the works, and once we get feedback, we'll certainly convey that to you.
Great. I just think it'd be an interesting, when it's ripe, I think it'd be an interesting issue for this committee to look at.
Bay Oaks itself is limited from a marine facility standpoint in that it's surrounded by mangroves, which are also Lee County land. That also, on the other side of it, is aquatic preserves, submerged aquatic vegetation, all things that are large hurdles to develop on.
Okay.
So
I was under the impression that there was some kind of a window where we could utilize it, but maybe.
you probably know more than me. You definitely know more than me.
I don't know that I do.
So,
I don't know.
You know, I'm not sure. So
Okay.
once we get the green light on what, when, and where.
That's fine.
You know,
All right. That's all I've got. Thank you.
So, Jim, is Bay Oaks the leading candidate at this point for upland facilities?
We really don't have a leading candidate. We're trying to explore all the pros and cons for facilities right now. We do have, you know, like you said, you know, we're just waiting on the okay from the uppers to move forward with what we want to do.
So they're looking at the big picture. They're looking at everything all conjoined together also too.
Yep.
Good. Austin and Chad, did you have anything else for now? Okay. And we'll go on to public comment, no public, so we'll go on to setting the agenda for the next meeting. I have the date for the next meeting as December 20th at 9 a.m. And as far as we know, it'll probably be still be here at the Mound House. But check the top of your agenda just in case there's a change on that.
There very well may be a change on the location. Just so wise to check, because the new facilities may be ready by December 20th.
Would that be Diamond Head, or that'll actually be somewhere else?
It'll be where the town hall trailers are now.
Oh, good.
But behind them and probably in the Bay Oaks campus somewhere.
Okay. We'll definitely check the agenda for at the very top there of the location and the time.
Do we think that, Jim, if we're in the new location, then we might have the ability to join remotely?
Absolutely. That's the goal.
Okay.
Whether that technology will be ready December 20th,
Okay.
I don't know, but certainly in the next few months, absolutely.
Okay.
Does anybody have any tentative travel plans where
Yeah.
you'll be?
I will be in Maui.
Let's all go.
So I will happily join at 4 a.m. Maui time if I
4
can.
a.m.
I will. So.
Does anybody else have travel plans, or is most of us tentatively planning on meeting? Okay, good. We'll keep the meeting on. We'll keep the meeting on then.
Okay.
Set the agenda for the next meeting. Is there anything anyone would like to add or delete? Or should we keep it the same for now and get the same reports from staff?
There's an opportunity. There's a couple of council meetings coming up that if it pleases the committee to motion for some direction from town council on what they would like to discuss. There's meetings in December to go and talk to town council and get some feedback from town council on topics. So either the chair or the vice chair or whoever the committee would like to nominate to go in.
My advice on that, Chad, at this point, since we're still in the preliminary stages, it's maybe a little premature for that. I mean, obviously, anybody's welcome to do that, but listening to the discussion today, there is a tradition of having the committee chairs gather all together, and one of the counselors mentioned that the need to set one of those up again, where we could have some of that feedback. But I think for this group to go and ask the council, well, I don't think the council knows what to offer you or to challenge you with at this point, given all the variables that we're wrestling with right now. So as some of that matures a little bit, I think that would be great, Chad. But I think at this point, the council is so, I mean, I guess they got a lot on their plate, but I mean, this is an area that's not on the front burner, and it's fine. It's just working through the process. But at some point, it's going to get on the front burner again, and at that point, I think then we can challenge the council to at least early next year, maybe a little early at this point. I think. I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay, for now, why don't we have you, Councilman Otterholt, bring bring back to us anything that you
That's
think
fine.
might be,
I'd be happy to do that.
we might need to jump on or expedite. So we'll keep the agenda the same. The minutes, you have a copy of the minutes back there for me, Austin, to sign before I leave there. And anybody have anything else or any comments? Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I so move.
By Chris, seconded by Ted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Good gal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, classic. Put my hand through it.
Do you know whether we've got the committee full with this?
Whether we have a...
The committee is full.
I think it is full. I think it is full. Are we full? We got,
Yeah.
it's 7?